Okay, so you're making the move to Orlando, Florida, and you're like, I want to buy a new construction. Now could be the worst time to buy a new home in Orlando, and you should just run away. Run away right now. But if you want to stay tuned this video. I'm going to cover some of the big reasons of why you maybe should not buy new construction currently as it stands right now in Orlando, Florida. Let's get it. What's up, everyone? My name is Cameron Hodge, coming at you with eXp Realty here in Orlando, Florida. And on this channel, I talk about everything about moving, eating, sleeping, whatever you have it with Orlando, Florida, and I absolutely love it. And we are always getting reach outs, days, nights, weekends, with people needing help making that move to Orlando, Florida, and we absolutely love it. So if that's you and you need help making the move to Orlando, then give us a call, text, email, whatever you have to do. We have your back when making that move to Orlando. Okay, so you know you're coming out here and you're like, you know what, Cameron, I just want to buy a new home. Like, I don't want to buy resale. I don't want to buy some home someone lived in. I want to get into a new construction right now. Well, this could be the worst time to possibly do that, but it depends on your situation. So if you've never bought new construction before, there's a lot that you need to go into it with. Also, keep in mind that because Florida is also having a lot of construction going on, as people continue to move here, a lot of builders are ramping up their production as much as they possibly can in this current craziness of the world we have going on. And they're trying to obviously build more homes. But what that means is like, you're not the only one that's had this thought. So a lot of times we are seeing a lot of competition on those new construction homes, but it also depends on the area. 'Cause keep in mind, depending where you work, what school you want your kids to go to, you know, the communities that are being built may not be in the right area for you that could best fit your family. So that's one of the first things you have to think about is that home or community being built in the right area? Because yes, construction is being built in a lot of areas, but the land's not available to be built in those areas. Like, you need to make sure that you're willing to do the commute and make sure that it's in the area that you absolutely love. Now, one thing also, this next thing that you need to think about is new communities. Like, a lot of times, often than not, we are seeing HOAs be put in these communities. And I don't know about you, but I made the move to Florida to not have that. Because holy cow, like in California, like if you find a home without an HOA, God bless you, you just found the diamond in the rough. Here in Florida, it's really common to not find a home with an HOA, because who wants it? Who wants someone else being in charge of you when it comes to making that move? And unfortunately, a lot of these communities are having HOAs be put in place when they have the community. And don't get me wrong, they serve a purpose, but they're not for everyone. And I don't like them, but there's nothing wrong with them per se, because they are new. You have the ability to get voted into the HOA and be a major part of it and improve it, and they keep, you know, home values up because they try and upkeep the neighborhood, make sure you don't have anyone hoarding like crazy on the home. But if you don't really enjoy HOAs, then new construction may not be for you, because I think most communities that we've seen being built currently, like, they're going to have them in place, and it's just unfortunate. Now, not all of them. Also keep in mind, like, if you have the financial ability like I did, you can find builders that you can just find the lot and you can build. The downfall is, right, so when you do a new construction community, a lot of times you're looking at homes that they built in what's called tracks. So they'll have track, 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever, however they want to label them. And they'll say, all right, during the month of, May 2022, we are going to be building lots 1 through 10. And we're going to start, we're going to open the ability to get on the list to buy those starting in like February, March, something like that. And what that means is you have to financially be able to qualify to buy that new construction home in that community in the months that they open that list. And it won't be constructed for like however many months, depending on the builder and the situation, the style. They'll have that information for you. They'll have like the rough range that home will be completed. And it has to be able to fit in your moving. So if you're like, let's say you're like living in California, right? Like we were, and you're like, I am done. I am done with the craziness. I'm done with the cost. I want to get out. Keep in mind, like, if you want to do new construction, like, you have to be able to make that move timely. Whether you have a lease, you have a home to sell, like, you need to be able to not only qualify for that new construction, but you need to be flexible to move into that home within a certain period after it's built, because lenders just want to see that. And also, any financial responsibilities you have currently going on, they need to see that you can do it there. And if you have a job lined up and you have to be able to move for that, there's a lot of variables that come with new construction. Like, don't get me wrong, having a new home is awesome, especially if you're coming from one of those crazy metro areas and you're like, look, I want to have what I can't have in Florida. Then yes, don't get me wrong, we did it. My wife, like, I want something I couldn't have there, and we made a plan to do it. But it pushed us back moving to Florida like 12 months. Between, we did a standalone, we didn't do a community, which usually adds some more time. You have to find the land, you have to go through all this craziness, and that obviously was a lot of hoops and stress, and not to mention every person when you're going through that building process is going to be like, I thought you were moving to Florida. Hey, you're still here? I thought you moved to Florida. And it's like, yes, I'm building, because not everyone. Now, obviously, if you make the move, you could rent and do that, but you need to make sure you have a lease and a landlord that's, letting you keep that short rents. And some cities require a minimum lease amount between 5, 6, 7 months, possibly longer, when you rent inside those city areas per their laws and codes. So it can create a lot of chaos when it comes to making that move. Whereas if you're just looking for a home that's already built on market, you can still find newer construction homes that someone's selling, and we can work into you moving sooner than having to wait for a new construction. But some new construction, some builders, which happened to me when I did it, like, they actually give you a benefit towards closing costs. So there's a lot of pros and cons. I've covered it in other videos, but it's making sure that you have the time to wait and you have the financial ability to make that jump. Because yes, you can qualify for the cost of the home, but it's all those variables of where you're renting, the cost during, like all this stuff, that your job lined up. Are you working remote and maybe it's not a concern? Like, you have to weigh all these factors when it comes to new construction. Not only new construction, as communities open up, they are increasing in value. And it's just one of those things. And also you have to realize, like, let's say you can get a resale home in your price range, but so maybe like a new construction, like maybe you're like, oh man, like that's a little out of my budget because it's newer cost, but I can still get in the same area buying a resale home, or having someone like our team that's willing to look off market to try and find you that right opportunity, and to where we can get you into that home with as least headache as possible. There's a lot that goes into it, and it can be a lot of stress. I promise you, even in a community where they kind of have everything dialed down to a process, it's still a stressful thing to go through, especially having kids. It's a lot to go through. Also, in new construction, like I said before, is like, obviously when you look at a city, not like a lot of times when it comes to like the center of the city, a lot of the new construction that's going on is going to be condo complexes. And I don't know about you, but like, I did not come to Florida to live in a condo. Maybe that's your thing, and maybe that's what you want to do. We help clients every day do that, and that's totally okay. But if you're like me, like you wanted to be in a home, right? Like, the cost of my home that I built here brand new was the cost of my condo I sold in San Diego. Like, how gross is that? And it's wanting to get a better life. I think that's why we all move here to like Florida. So we want to have freedom. We want to have a better life for our family, ourselves, and just to have the ability to live our lives the way we want to live. And if you're looking to do that, keep in mind, is like, as communities build and build and build, like they have to go farther out sometimes, depending where you're looking, but they're having to build farther up from the city center because that's where the land is. That's where the communities are being built. And that doesn't mean like you're like, like San Diego, right? Like, if you're in the center of the city to all the way in North County, which it's like what land's available there, it's mostly townhomes they're building. But like in that distance, like, and if you look on the map and look, but it's like you're driving forever with traffic to get to that point. And same thing with Orlando. If you're coming from any other metro area, or even if you're coming from the country, like you're going to have more traffic than what you're probably used to if it's like somewhere, a small town in the Midwest. And you need to weigh in that factor when it comes to those communities. Like, yes, it's a brand new home. Yes, they might cover closing costs and like all these great benefits, and you're able to make that timeline. But you have to make sure that it's in a location that you want to live in. Right? Because a lot of times those newer construction homes, like, they are going to be a little bit higher priced than the resale alternatives in the area. And it doesn't mean you have to buy a home built in like 1970s that's on stilts and in the swamp, Like, it could still be a 2005, 2015 built home, or even newer, that someone lived in and they're like, look, I'm making a move or whatever and I'm selling. And you don't have the crazy timelines of new construction, but it's still in the same area. It's just a newer community that was built in 2015, still new, still high on codes. It's not like it was built in the 80s. It's not like a mobile home. Like, so there's a lot of things you need to weigh in to make sure it's a right decision for you. And just believe it or not, like, a lot of people initially reach out and they're like, look, I want to do new construction. This is where I want to go. I want to build my custom home and everything. Look, I've had situations where people that like, they go the custom route, like full custom. Like, we didn't even go custom. We went with like a standard plan the builders already had in place. So they already had the systems to build that home. But when you go full custom and away from a community because you don't want HOAs or whatever your reason is, it could take up to 12 months to get those plans approved, and it really depends on a ton of factors. But when you go full custom, like, hey, maybe that's what you want, let's do it. But if it's something you're like, wow, I didn't realize it could take that long to go a full custom home, even if you can afford it, like, trust me, it's building. It's a stressful process. There's a reason why people don't do it nonstop every day. On top of the fact that a lot of times when you go to shop for land, like, it seems like, oh yeah, there's land everywhere. Like, it's Florida. Like, a lot of areas, like, they'll sell land, but you can't build there because of whether it's on swampland in Florida. You can't just build in the wetlands area if it's under that demographic. And there's a lot of things that happen around that area to make sure you can build. So you might find a lot. You're like, dude, this lot's perfect. And you go into the escrow process and you come to find out, you're like, wow, I can't even build on half of it. And it's just like, or you're like, hey, it's in a flood zone. Like, obviously most areas of Florida, like a lot of areas are gonna be in a flood zone, especially if you're closer to a lake. But it's, you know, all these things that add up, where if you're buying a resale home, like, you have a lot of protections. A home's already been built there, so you're not having to worry about if the home could stand. And actually, if it's gone through some hurricanes, you know it's a sound area. And you can see, like, look it back, see if there's any insurance claims from the past couple years and all that kind of stuff that you can find out to know, like, you can get the full story of that area. Where if you're building new construction, that is a fear you don't know. You don't know how that specific piece of land is going to handle, especially if it's in an area where you're a little spaced out between homes. Like, you don't know how it's going to end up when you start to get hurricanes and all that stuff. So, can new construction be an awesome thing? Absolutely. Like, it can be a great benefit, that especially moving to Florida is something that we get to enjoy. A brand new home for your family, maybe away from the city, like whatever you want. Like, it's really like your play box as long as it fits in your budget. But there's a lot of stresses that go with it. And currently, as it stands, like, obviously building materials have started to go down from where they were, like craziness of last year. But, you know, depending on what you want to do, like, I've even heard horror stories of people, the home being completely built, but then they can't get appliances because of the chip shortage and all that stuff. And while it looks like they hopefully will have better solutions as this year progresses, you know, depending what kind of appliances you want or were intended to go in the home, like, technically banks won't give you an occupancy stamp allowing you to move into the home and complete the process until you have a livable home, which means having the appliances the builder had in the plans when it was supposed to be built. So it's all these little factors that you can really avoid in the resale market. And you have to weigh those stresses. You have to weigh what's best for you and your family. And if you don't fully know, you're on the fence, or you know which way you want to go, reach out to us. Call, text, email, whatever you have to do. We have been there. Our team has done that. We didn't just grow up here and know everything like the back of the hand. We had to go through the pain to find the way to make the move here. And we have learned a lot in that process, and we love helping you make that decision. So if that's you, give us a call, text, email, whatever you have to do to get a hold of us when making that move to Orlando. And without that, I will see you in the next video.